They were sent away for life due to the crimes they were convicted of.
Tonight, they're getting another shot to live outside of prison, and district attorneys across the state are sounding the alarm. The investigative unit, Chris Nakamoto, with details on the problem one DA says is facing every judicial district in the state.
Sylvia, Michael, Ascension Parish District Attorney Ricky Babin says he recently had 2 cases in his jurisdiction come up. Individuals sent away for life who are now getting another shot at freedom.
This is just 2 of the ones that's on my desk.
District Attorney Ricky Babin is trying to wrap his brain around something that he says makes absolutely no sense.
Damn it, life in prison is life in prison.
Over the past 30 days, he's had 2 lifers come up for parole. The parole board denied Lucas Roddy's parole this month. But now another convict could get out of prison. These pictures are from a gruesome 1986 murder in Gonzales.
A lady who was a waitress was leaving a restaurant late at night, had car trouble. The guy who's supposedly going to help her jump her car off brutally beat her to death with a tire tool.
To Babin's surprise, he was notified the killer, Derek Perkins, is up for parole next month. It's all part of a years-long effort to reform the criminal justice system.
In a matter of months, he could be walking out of prison. And it's just hard for the victims to relive this.
We saw it happen last August.
Investigators found their bodies.
David Chenevert, now 64 years old, convicted of and confessed to the grisly murders of Evelyn McIntyre and Michael Brown more than 40 years ago in Baton Rouge.
Come with me, son.
He pleaded guilty and got a life sentence. He was released from prison after being granted parole. Our own John Pastorek, one of the first reporters on the scene following the murders.
Back in those days in 1979, upscale apartment, 2 bloody bodies found in a dumpster. They've been stabbed multiple times. That just doesn't happen in Baton Rouge.
Babin says what's happening requires change.
If somebody's going to get life imprisonment and it's not really life, then the victims and the public in general should be told.
Babin says district attorneys around the state are also pushing for a truth in sentencing bill that would let victims know the exact minimum amount of years a convict could face when they're given their sentences. Michael?
All right. Good morning. The park board is reconvening. We are at Louisiana State Penitentiary. It is Monday, June 5th, 2023, and it is 11:03 a.m. Would the staff there at the penitentiary please introduce yourself for the record?
Deputy Warden Rochelle Ambo.
Correctional Admiral, classification.
Carmen Shipley, Offender Records.
Is everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. And we have before us Mr. Derricks. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your DOC number.
Jerome Derricks, 113381.
Right. And counsel, would you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, Emily Lubin on behalf of Mr. Derricks.
Okay, and we'll let you wrap it up for us at the end.
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, let me, before we get started, I want to recognize the folks who have joined us. We have in support, we have the Parole Project, Mr. Hundley, who will be speaking, and we have Wanda Miles, who will also be speaking. I'm gonna just read my list real quick. Folks who are in support but will not be speaking: Frank Cushenberry, Ron Hicks, Lois Cushenberry, James Law, Albert Howard, Gary Miles, Roxanne Winters, and Eddie Tolver. We also have here in opposition with us in Baton Rouge, we have representing the victim, Taylor Nason. Can I pronounce that?
Yes, ma'am. I'm Nason, and I'm joining from
Nason. Taylor's joining Zoom. Oh, Taylor's on Zoom. Okay, thank you. David Nason, and then representing the district attorney's office, we have the district attorney, Mr. Ricky Babin, and also with his office, Mr. Bart Morris. And at the appropriate time, we'll ask for those speakers. First, let me just read some identifying information, Mr. Derricks, and we'll get started with the interview process. Ms. Levy, did you have a comment?
Yes, Mr. Frank Cushenberry is present here, and he would like to speak as well.
Okay, thank you. I have it. All right. Mr. Derricks, you're here seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in the 23rd Judicial District, Ascension Parish, in May of 1986 to a life sentence for second-degree murder. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, your case has been assigned to Mr. Marabella. Would you answer his questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Derricks. My name is Tony Marabella. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Derricks, how old are you, sir?
I'll be 58 September 18th.
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
A little over 37 years.
And how old were you at the time of the commission of this offense?
20 years of age.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit about who you were at 20 years old. Had you finished school? How far had you gone in school at 20 years old?
Yes, sir. I completed high school in 1984.
Hey, were you working at all?
Yes, sir, I was. I was working at the plant in St. Gabriel at Ciba-Geigy.
Who were you living with?
My sister, Wanda Cushionberry.
Now, you mentioned in your documentation that you use drugs. What kind of drug do you use?
I smoked marijuana and I also took pills.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the marijuana. When did you first start using marijuana?
When I was 16 years old.
How often would you use marijuana at 16?
Probably every weekend.
And what about the pills? When did you progress to the pills, or how did you get to the pills?
When I started running track in high school.
Okay. What were you using?
Black Mollies and speed.
How often were you using those? How old were you when you were running track in high school?
I was 17 when I started running track, and I would use speed to boost my agility and use Mollies to calm down.
In January of 1986, what kind of drugs were you using and how often were you using them?
Marijuana, mostly marijuana.
Now, on this particular day or night, morning, were you using drugs then?
Yes, sir.
What were you using on that particular day?
I was using marijuana that I thought was marijuana, but it had been dipped in PCP and embalming fluid.
How did you find that out?
When the guy that I got it from later, maybe 3 days later, told me what I had, that's when I found out that it wasn't just a regular joint.
Well, tell me what happened. Let's talk about it. I want you to be very honest with me as best you can remember what happened on the morning of January the 26th of 1986.
Yes, sir. I had a routine of when I get off from work, I would always go to the car wash my car for the weekend, and I'd always get something to smoke. I smoked that day, and I went to the Waffle House.
Now, when you're talking about smoking, we're talking about smoking marijuana that you're talking about, or you're talking about, what are you talking about smoking?
The PCP, the marijuana that was dipped in embalming fluid and PCP.
Right. Go ahead and continue.
I went to the Waffle House where I was at in my car. Miss Nason approached my car. She was having problems with her car. I got out of my car and I hit Miss Nason. I then put Miss Nason in her car and drove to Bluff Road where I left Miss Nason at.
Tell me why you did this.
I really don't have an idea why I was doing what I was doing. All I know is that the time that it took me to get to the Waffle House, a lot of time had elapsed, and it felt like I was driving on the clouds, and I was having this trip that I've never ever had before. Because I was used to smoking marijuana, but I did not know what this stuff was, and I just didn't really know where I was at. I don't know Miss Nason, never knew her, never seen her, never even went in the Waffle House.
What did you beat her with?
A tire iron.
Where did you get the tire iron from?
I had the tire iron in my car when I left the car wash. And I remember having the tire iron inside where I was at when I left, because while I was going through this trip, it's like things were attacking me. I was just out of my mind.
After you dumped her body in the woods, what did you do then?
After I left Miss Nason off of Bluff Road, I got back into my car, in her car, and went back to my car and just drove around until I wind up back at my sister's house and passed out. And when I woke up a day and a half later, she told me what did I smoke to have me in that type of condition. And I told her that I had smoked this stuff and it just took me on a trip.
Let's talk a little bit about how long you've been in, what you've done while you've been in jail. Before you came to prison, did you get any sort of treatment for your marijuana use or your use of the pills?
No, sir, I didn't.
Were you drug tested regularly at your job?
On the streets, no, sir.
Well, didn't you say, where were you working at?
I was working for a construction company at Ciba-Geigy. We did labor work, and that's where I was working at the time of this.
They didn't drug test you at all?
No, sir.
Okay. So let's talk about what you've done while you've been in prison. What kind of programs have you taken since you've been in prison, dealing strictly with substance abuse? We'll talk about other things, but right now dealing specifically with substance abuse. What programs have you taken, or what have you done with reference to substance abuse?
Yes, sir. In 1993, I started taking 12-step program. In 94, I took the AA program. In 2017, I took the Living in Balance program, which I believe was the better program of them all. And every Friday night, we have like a small group. And this is to this date. Every third Tuesday, we have a small group. The guy comes off the street, and it's like a support group that we have back in the camp where I'm at, to talk about the things that we went through on drugs and how it affects us even to this day.
Let me ask you this. What would be your plan to stay sober if you were released in the future? What would you do to make sure you don't go back to using marijuana, finding yourself smoking marijuana, laced in whatever?
Keep a good support group around me like I have today, and find a counseling program, because I believe that I still need some counseling to help me deal with the withdrawals sometimes that I have about having to live through this stuff. I mean, it's hard to describe how to live with something that you know you've done and what caused me to do what I do. And I think I would need counseling, and I would seek that out.
Have you taken any sort of programs that involve victim awareness, or things that get you to understand, or at least come to some understanding of the harm that you've done to the family of Ms. Eastman? Tell me about it.
I've taken the victim awareness class, and when I went through the class, it really opened my eyes to all the people that were involved in the crime that I committed, because I had no idea that so many people were affected, you know, from the police department, the coroners, the law enforcement, my family, their family, friends. And I didn't realize that impact that I had by committing this crime, that it will affect so many people. And it helped me to understand that, you know, I just didn't have a right to invade in somebody else's life like that.
Tell me a little bit about the programs that, the clubs that you belong to. I understand you've done a lot of work in Toastmasters and other programs like that in prison. Tell me what that's meant to you and what you've been able to do while you've been in there.
Toastmasters helped me to be able to relate with people, helping to understand that we're not all the same, and that you have to first understand where a person coming from before you can be understood by that person also. That's just one of the programs that I did with Toastmasters. And Thinking for a Change, Cage Your Rage, all of those programs was really helpful to me in becoming a better person. And
I have a list of all the certificates and achievements that your lawyer has submitted to us. Tell me a little bit about your faith-based programs and what you've done and what that means to you and what you've gotten out of it.
In my faith-based programs, it helped me to be more compassionate towards the people that I live around, because even in here, I see that I can be helpful to those around me. And it gave me the understanding that there is a higher power that I can depend on, that I can call on when I'm going through whatever it is I'm going through or having a bad day. I know that I can look within myself and I can see the spirit working within me that brings me over to where I need to be.
And you've had 15 write-ups since you've been in prison for 37 years. Your last one was in 1999. Have you had any write-ups for intoxication?
Never.
Now, prior to committing this very horrible crime, you didn't have any prison record at all, did you?
No, sir. I've never been in trouble with the law or anything. I never had a juvenile record or anything.
What would be your transition plan if you were given a commutation and allowed to get out at some time in the future? Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you live with? Where would you work?
I would transition to the parole project to get the help that they've offered to give me and help me find the programs that I was discussing about counseling and maybe AA, some type of sobriety group. And after that, I would live with my nephew in St. Gabriel.
Now, Mr. Derricks, very understandably, you have a lot of opposition against your release. There's nothing you can do about that. Family of the victim in this case is adamant about your release. They certainly don't want you out. Law enforcement, very understandably, is adamant against your release. There's nothing that you can do about it, but that's something that needs to be said, needs to be put on the table. Warden, what can you tell us? Warden Ambo, what can you tell us about Mr. Derricks?
Sir, all the programs that you mentioned are true. He has several others. He has an associate degree in pastoral ministry, and he also has a BA in Christian ministry. He's the Camp F minister, and he also ministered to the death row offenders. He has a Christian band that he participates in, and he's very instrumental in all the programs that we have back there at Camp F. Especially we have the Pause program. Most of the time he's there talking to the tourists when they come and do the tours and everything. I do believe that Mr. Derricks is a changed person from the person that he was in 1986, just by the reputation that he has here at the prison now with the ministry and everything. So I really think he'll be a good fit to be back into the community.
Thank you, Warden. Mr. Derricks, in addition to the comments by the Warden, I've seen a lot of support that you have, not only from your family, but from other supervisors and staff members at prison. Madam Chairman, I think that's all the questions I have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mirabella. Mr. Rush.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Derricks, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Derricks, I want to revisit Mr. Marabella's question. Why would you beat a lady who needs assistance, who is just asking for help, to give her a boost in her battery, and you conveniently had a tire jack on at your disposal? Why would you beat this person to death, then put it in your trunk of your car? At the time you were arrested, you say you heard this person moaning. She was not dead yet, and you dumped her in the woods in a swamp in Ascension Parish, knowing that she was still alive, and there was a hospital within 1 mile of that location. And you said you didn't know why. You have to give me something.
Mostly everything that I was doing out of fright, sir. I wasn't thinking rationally when I was doing what I was doing.
No, Mr. Marabella, you didn't even remember. You knew what you were doing and you were frightened. Is that you started?
Excuse me?
You knew what you were doing and you were frightened, so you dumped the body.
Correct.
Then why would you attack her in the first place?
I really don't know, sir. Like I said, I wasn't in my right mind when I was doing it. There was no reason. There was no reason at all for me to do what I did, because it wasn't like I was planning to do this or anything like that, sir, at all. I had no reason. I was just letting the drugs just take effect.
But after you did it, the drugs wore off and
No, sir, no, sir.
But you heard her moaning, you were frightened, so you dumped the body.
I was frightened, sir, when this was going on. All of this was in the same day, sir.
I understand that. What I'm saying is, momentarily after you beat a person to death, you realize, oh, I did something wrong. I'm frightened. I'm fearful. Let me get rid of the evidence. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Rush. Okay, we'll hear from the support now. Mr. Hunley, could we hear from the Parole Project?
Thank you. Andrew Hundley with Louisiana Parole Project, here to inform the board that if Jerome Derricks is to be released in the near future, that he will be a client of our program. First and foremost, we must say that this was clearly a senseless crime, and it's very difficult to hear about it and question what Mr. Derricks was thinking when the crime was committed. From Parole Project's perspective, we are looking at the person that Mr. Derricks has become since his incarceration. Went to prison at the age of 20, and he's been there for 38 years. For 38 years, he has demonstrated a record of growth and rehabilitation. I know Ward Nambo and the board clearly has described the programs and the jobs that he has. I think what I should highlight just a bit more is the level of community service, for decades that he has provided in his role in the chaplains department. But overall at Camp F, he has been viewed for years and years as a mainstay and a leader at Camp F. And we feel very confidently if Jerome were to be released, that not only would he be a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen, but that he would be the same person that he is at Angola at Camp F in his new community. If he is released, Parole Project commits to providing him case management, giving him that initial housing, and also assisting him in his reintegration into the community. Your consideration is appreciated. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Frank Cushenberry.
Stay where you sit, just go straight down. Yeah. Next seat. Y'all can stand?
Yeah,
They could probably see him better in the other chair.
yes.
One more down, Frank. Go
One more down.
Hey.
Hey, perfect. All right. Go ahead, sir.
How you doing? Jerome's my uncle. I've been about the last 20 years been a strong advocate to him, you know, talking to him, he's been a role model to me even in his situation, and I've been there every step of the way. If you need anything, somebody to talk to, advice, we give it to each other. If he get a favorable recommendation from you guys, I'll provide a place for him to stay, help him get a job, different things. Anything he need, I'll be there to help support him, to keep him on the right track and keep him doing what he's supposed to do.
Thank you, sir. And we have here with us Ms. Wanda Miles, the secretary.
Say good morning. And well, today I'm here on my brother Jerome Derricks' behalf. And I will say at 20 years old, what the person he was back then, he's not that person anymore. I apologize and I'm sorry for the decision that he made, and he allowed the drugs to alter him to do something of that nature. But he has a great support. He has a strong value. It's almost like while he was placed there, God got his attention to do and get on the track that he should have been on. Had he not wavered, he would have been a better person, not in here in this situation now. I thank the board for allowing him to be a part of this today. And he's not, for the 38 years, we have always been by his side. We've always been there to support him. And I was very remorseful for what he's done. And when Jerome do come home again, like my son said, he's gonna be on the right track. And I just want to say, I'm a retired warden from the women's prison. And just seeing the rehabilitation that a lot of them have went through and the things they did, the decisions they made when they was younger at the age that they didn't even know they were thinking to do those things, they have been, and so have he, have been doing a lot what he need to be doing. And I think when he's gonna come home, he's gonna be a great person in the free world. And he's gonna bring a lot to it. We've already got a church home for him to get ready to transition him back out there and give back to the public. And to reach back to those that need to have that support that they need. And I thank y'all for allowing me to speak.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for reading. Okay, now we'll hear from opposition, and could we hear from Taylor Nason? She's on Zoom. Do we have her with us?
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. So my name is Taylor Nason, and I am the granddaughter of the late Beverly Nason. I'll keep my comments and my remarks brief and direct because that is just the type of person I am. I came in here today not knowing if I was going to be opposed or unopposed, quite frankly. I wanted to hear maybe some remorse or maybe some, I don't know, insight as to a why behind it other than just an excuse to a joint of marijuana being laced with no concrete evidential fact behind that either. So I'm very disappointed that you were given, Mr. Derricks, the platform and the opportunity to speak directly about how you have rehabilitated and focused on the victims, and you completely brushed over that question. So that I'm very, very remorseful to see that that is what we have come to today. So with that, I do firmly believe that you have yet to take full accountability of your actions. So with that, I do suggest that you do serve your full sentence. I do commend you, though, for what you have been doing, the work that you have done. I do not believe that you were the same person that you were 20 years old. I don't. That's just not realistic. However, I do believe in facing the consequences of your actions, especially for something that is so brutal, senseless, and also has monumental and generational trauma that has been passed down from it. So thank you, board, for allowing me to speak today. That is all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Dan. Miss Melissa? You want to go next, or rather, Mr. Nason? Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I'm David Mason. Sorry. I'm Beverly's passed up. What we've been put through is, you just can't even measure it with anything. It's just been beyond horrible. We count my days prior to, after the murder, if we didn't know it had taken place, just my life goodbye to work on. I stepped in the wall of the house, obviously she was murdered. And the next morning I come in from work, my car's in my bag. I have no idea where she's at. This is what I would tell you about her fault. So for days, we don't know where she's at. We got a car full of blood on the interstate. That's it. So that morning, this is beyond strange. So I started getting phone calls that friends of mine that had law enforcement. I asked them, do you own this certain car? That's it. So now I'm freaking out. So I'm thinking, I have no idea. So we'll wake her up, but she was asleep because I got off 4 or 5 in the morning. Anyway, let's go. So where was your mom at the night before? She said, I think she was at the Waffle House. That's the first thing I did. So we ride over there. Sunday morning, I think it was like the back parking lot's empty. So I said, let's just pull around here. And I saw all the police out front. I wasn't. So we get out. She starts screaming on her side of the truck. She goes, oh my God, I just stepped in mom's blood. And can you imagine this whole parking lot? We park in the spot that my wife's car was in. And it's crazy. She's stepping in the blood. And she's going, oh, and you see all these foot tracks all around. You can almost see where he drove the body around the corner. There. Then I go get the police officer. You come back here. This is something that you have no idea. Okay, so then things kind of start picking up and finally they identified who did it. But for a week, I don't know where my wife is. And that's different. You just can't imagine because you don't know what happened to her. You just got pieces of it. It's just, no, it's not good. Whatever. Slaughter that happened. And this is the guy that did it. So, we got grandkids that will never see her, all this generational stuff that you never going to have. We don't have any reason why it happened. It's just beyond comprehensible. One human can do that to another. Wow, you're supposed to be helping her. It's crazy. I can't make any sense of it to this day. We got to keep coming back here, which really makes me have this fine. Come back here. We cut a deal. Drop first degree off the charge. Let's do second. He reckoned life. That's what it said. That was like no gray area. He's going to even get out later. He's going to get anything. It's my input. Here I am, second time in 5 years, trying to keep this guy in prison. What we did. Why do we have to do this as a family? Like, why? Where's the law at? We had the law on our side. I was like, it's turned against us. I hate it. So as a victim, we get to be a victim. Again, we can't put this in rest. We can't. We're gonna come back here 5 years from now if something won't happen today that he's gotta stay here. So why did her and I gotta do this? No, we go home today, still gotta ride all the way to Florida, thinking, we're gonna keep doing this until we die. One of us does, and it's just horrible. Why we gotta relive it? This isn't that. So, while I'm happy he's found God, I'll give him my God. I sure didn't know God when he got me. So, I can only buy into so much of this success story. I was saying that he's a new guy, he's become one with the Lord, and doing the Lord's work. Can't take away part of that, but that's still the guy that really would be my wife today. So how can I sit here and go, sure, let it go. He's never going to do that again. Who knows in his courtroom? Not. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for hearing us. Forgive me for speaking. My name is Melissa Mason. That's my name. My mom gave me that name. I'm named after her. I don't mean. She was my everything. She was a little girl. If she was somewhere, I was with her. I want to. Jerome Derricks took my mother from me brutally, violently, horrifically. Today we stand here all with a voice, but she doesn't have one. We have to be in that voice for her. I cannot say enough how I'm happy for him that he is taking these classes and he's learning these lessons and he's doing those things and he is touching lives. And he can do that right from where he is. Our gift to him, if you want to call it that, because there are no winners here. Not in this room. There are no winners. But I'm gonna get a call. I'm gonna get a hug. I'm gonna get a letter. I didn't get to go to my mother for advice. No dances, prom, homecoming, no first dates. She missed my graduation. It took me years just to graduate from college because I couldn't finish. The trauma was awful, and I still finished. So I can make her proud, even though she couldn't be there with me to watch me walk. I gave birth to 3 beautiful children. And you know who was there to hold my hand? A nurse. She never got to hold any of her grandbabies, see her great grandbabies. Nothing. She doesn't get anything. She wasn't allowed anything. She was breathing. Still had the opportunity to a life. One different attorney could have dropped her off at a hospital. I could still have her. Instead, my father has to identify an absolutely unidentifiable body. A blood-soaked car. We have to say there are consequences for every action. And his consequence was life in prison without the possibility of parole. That is what we all agreed to, and that is what I am asking justice be served, and that sentence be honored, that it stand, that he stay where he is. I have lived a life in survival mode. I've been in trauma counseling for years. And you get to a point where you think you're able to heal. And then it's just like scab wound, and it just scars, and it becomes generational. You're afraid to let anyone leave your sight because you don't know if they're ever going to come home. You don't know. She came in. I spoke to her. She gave me a hug and kiss, and I woke up the next morning expecting to see. None of us ever did, and I couldn't even lay a rose in her hand in a casket because I couldn't see her. I thought when I came, just concrete tombstone that I get to go to. And that's it. That's what he left us with. And I'm asking you, please, let us stand and stay where he is, and please allow us to heal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Babin?
Morning, honorable members of the board. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak before you. I rise today in opposition. This gentleman's rule. Let me see. This crime occurred in 1986. In 1986, I was a senior at LSU undergraduate. So, trying to piece together what happened in 1986, father, this old, has always been a challenge. But what I could decipher is a few things. Number one, I made an error whenever I filed an opposition paper with this board. I said, this lady's daughter was a young child. She was 15 years old. She was a young child to me. But as I was sitting here thinking, listening, I was like, you know, it's even more traumatic for her being 15 because she was 2 weeks old, 2 months old. What does a 2-month-old know? This girl actually had to do the investigation, the identification, the trauma. She was a teenager. It soaked in well. So for that era, in my opposition, I do apologize, but it is really worse than I thought, based on the age that young lady was around this happened. The reason I'm here for these victims who have never recovered, they've been at them. The other reason I'm here is because just the very nature of this crime, there are murders and there are murders. All murders are evil and they're terrible. This one, and I think it's been addressed by this board. For what? I mean, did she make you angry? Did she do something to you? Did she try to harm you? She walked up to his car, asked for help. No problem, I'm gonna help you. Pull out a tire to be to death. Put her in her car, got into her car, drove out of the parking lot of that facility, instead of turning left and going half a mile to the hospital, turn right, dump the body in a rural part of Ascension Parish in a swamp. And at the time he dumped the body, she was alive. She was gasping, whimpering. That's his testimony, not mine. That's what his statement said. And I, prepared for these, I used to try to talk to the detective. And the detective in this case is now retired. But he's told me about this case. He said, this is a case I'll never forget. And I'm like, why? Was it the nation victim? He said, no. He said, when we discovered the body, she had leaves and sticks in her hands, grasping, like clutching life. He said, that's just something, that thing was something that never make me forget. That's the reason I'm here. This is the heinous crime. He was charged with first-degree murder. In 1986, he pled guilty to second-degree murder. Death penalty was taken off the table, and he's paid for life imprisonment sentence. These people were asked to give by my predecessors. I wasn't in this. I wasn't around it, but apparently, he talked to them and said, "Look, let's do a second-degree murder, life in prison." So they gave a lot. They gave death penalty, life in prison. And now that those goalposts being asked to be moved again, and that's just something they cannot take. I, with my victims, am happy that this gentleman is finding God and doing some of those right things. But when my victims set them out, well, you can just as easily do that where there is consequences for those actions. This beautiful lady just got off of work, had car problems, walked up to somebody for help. And I would also ask you, before you decided to look at the facts, he said that he was coming on with Bender and smoked some weed that was laced with other. Actually, he had left the barroom, driving home, said he had car trouble, parked in the parking lot and was actually sleeping. And that she actually woke him up to ask for help. So I don't think that exactly dovetails into that. He was just partying with drugs to the point that he lost his mind. That is not in the statement. So that's new evidence. That's I must have missed it when I reviewed. I didn't see it. In any event, I want to thank the board for letting us speak, and see you all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, Mr. Derricks, is there a statement you'd like to make before we turn it over to Ms. Luna?
Yes, ma'am, Ms.
Remarks to the board.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Renatson. First, I would like to apologize to the family for the hurt that I've caused. And I know that truly this was a horrific incident that was perpetrated by my hands. And I don't know what else I could do to show my remorse. 5 years ago, when I was on the board, I was terrified of even sitting here before the board. And Judge Combs got my mind together when he told me that I was almost there, and I didn't understand what he was telling me then. But those 5 years, I had to reflect on what he was actually telling me. And I now realize that what he was telling me is that I had to own up to what I did and understand the hurt that I had caused this family and to take full responsibility for that. And I did that. And I made a promise to stay on the path that I was on and that I would help those that I come in contact with, because I know that there's still purpose in my life. And I wanted to show that. And I didn't just want to be another statistic, just somebody being in prison. I wanted to be somebody that could make a difference, whether I'm in prison or not, because I truly know the person that I am. And my family knows that I'm not a bad guy. I did a bad thing, but I'm not a bad guy. And I just, wanted people to understand that I don't want to be remembered as a murderer, but that's what I'll be remembered for the rest of my life. And I have to live with that. But even though that I would be labeled that, it doesn't mean that I have to let that become my reality, and that I can still be good in this world and do good to others and help those that I know that needs help. and I'm truly sorry for what I did. But I would just hope that you would see me for the man that I've become today and what I strive to be tomorrow. Thank you.
Ms. Logan?
Yes, thank you. When I first met Jerome, I was really inspired by him, by his integrity, his honesty, and his true commitment to service. And as has been said, he entered prison at 20 years old, immature, an addict, and really out of control. And he is now matured into a 57-year-old man who is a pastor, a minister, a volunteer to help others, a teacher of classes like victims awareness and the Step Up program, and a leader here. And turning to the crime itself, there is absolutely no doubt this is horrific. It's senseless. It's difficult to hear. I cannot imagine what the family is going through and still impacted by this. And unfortunately, there's no easy answer, and Jerome would be lying to you if he gave a motivation that wasn't there. He was out of his mind on PCP and embalming fluid. He was seeing things, having hallucinations, out of his body, out of touch with his reality. And he committed this senseless act. And he does take responsibility for that. It was him who was in the mindset, who was out of control, who did those drugs, and who has to live with that fact and is remorseful for that act every day of his life. And while he cannot provide the family or anyone with an easy explanation for that and for his actions, for his out of control actions while he was on those drugs, he has committed to changing that, to taking those substance abuse classes, to dealing daily with his problems with addiction, with developing his inner strength in order to not have anything like that happen again. Throughout his time here at Angola, he has given back to others. He makes rounds to check on the elderly. He ministers to death row and to Camp F, conducts multiple services a week, works for decades now as a chaplain's clerk and an inmate minister since he was in the first class of the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. He is an artist, and he uses the art to affect others, as well as a musician with the Camp F Gospel Joy Singers. And he truly, from his time tutoring others and addressing the literacy problems here, he realized that he could have a change and that he needed to improve himself in order to then give back to others. And he has done that. He has improved himself. He is remorseful and rehabilitated. And if he were to rejoin the community, he has his transition plan with the Parole Project. He has his family support, community support, ranging from business people to professors at Loyola, all people who are eager to support him, to see him succeed, and to see him really thrive. He has a job lined up with Victory Enterprises. He would continue to stay sober and to go through the process that he needs to re-enter society. He's been a trustee for around 3 decades now, and he has truly shown through years and years of consistent service to others and self-improvement that he is a rehabilitated man. And I would ask this board to recommend commutation of his sentence. Thank you.
I think we are prepared to vote. Mr. Arabella?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First off, I'd like to thank everyone who spoke here today, especially the family of the victim. You have shown us today absolute devastating effects that this horrible sentence has had. We appreciate you being here. Talking to us, courage that it takes to be coming today. I've been in the criminal justice system for 50 years. It doesn't get any harder than this. These are very, very tough cases, very, very emotional. I was a prosecutor, as Mr. Babin is today. I was a public defender, I was a defense lawyer, I was a judge, and now I sit on the pardon board. And everyone has different roles as we sit here. I can remember as a sentencing judge listening to the horror of the crime and what my responsibility was and what I needed to do in terms of giving a sentence. Our role is to look at the facts of the case. All facts are horrible. All cases that come before us are horrible cases. The victims that are suffering day after day after. Our responsibility is not an easy one. Our responsibility is to look at everything, try to make a determination as to whether or not, in this particular case, Jerome Derricks has done enough to earn a commutation of sentence. And as I look at what all he's done, good comments from the lawyer. He's taken excellent programs. He's low risk, been in prison for 37 years. He's got a good disciplinary record. He's got a good reentry. He has never been in trouble before this horrible crime. It is senseless. It doesn't make sense as to why he did it. Looking at all of those things, taking all of those things, he said, my vote today is going to be recommended to the governor. Sentence to 9 years.
Mr. Freeman?
As Mr. Barabella said, it's hard for me personally to wrap my arms around why, period, as why. Usually there's always a reasoning behind these crimes, whether it be jealousy or whatever, anger, something. But from what I know, I mean, he did not even know this lady whatsoever. And it just snapped and he did it. It's a tough, I really, he's done excellent in prison. But at what point has he not done enough? My vote today, I'm going to vote to deny.
Mrs. Jackson?
Mr. Derricks, your case is unique in the sense that, when people say, I'm not the same person I was, when I came in, but you actually are the same person that you were. You had gone to high school, you had graduated, you participated in sports. You've never been in any trouble a day in your life. You were working, you were being responsible, except for the fact that you were using marijuana. And people using marijuana during that time frame, or even this time frame, does not rise to the level of making a person a horrible person. Obviously when I look at the case, I'm thinking, why? There's no evidence that you robbed the victim. There is no evidence that you committed any kind of sexual assault to the victim. And the only thing that makes sense to me is that you were under the influence of a hallucinogen that caused you to respond in the way that you did. I was a judge also for 28 years, and one of the last cases that came through my court was a man who stabbed his own little boy to death while being under the influence of mojo. Had been a great father. And so I know that it is possible for someone to do something under the influence of a hallucinogenic that they would never do at any other point in their life. And so I don't believe that, you came in as a monster and somehow changed. I think you had been a good person. You were doing all the right things. And unfortunately for you, but even more unfortunately for the Nason family, you got a hold of something that changed the trajectory of your life. You have been a Class A trustee for 30 years of your 37 years. You have done exceedingly well during your incarceration. You have not negated in any way what you did. I don't think you really understood yourself why, except for the fact that I got a hold of something that I just did not expect it to happen. And so looking at all the things that you have accomplished over the course of your incarceration, the person that you were prior to the date of this conference is the person that I see today as well. So my vote today would be to recommend a commutation of 99 to 99 years.
Mr. Mason. Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, as the victim advocate on the Park Board, I'd like to apologize to Niecy's family for the repeated appearance in this pardon hearing room. But the legislative body of the state of Louisiana makes the law, and the law gives an offender the right to apply for a pardon after a certain number of years of incarceration. And when that offender is denied at different intervals according to the crime, he's allowed to reapply. And this body is only an instrument of that legislative body who was appointed by the governor to fulfill the wishes of that legislative body. But I know it makes you relive this situation over and over again, but it is Louisiana state law that we do this. I'd like to speak to the offender's family. Thank you for your appearance. Thank you for the support that you've given Mr. Derricks. Mr. Derricks.
Yes, sir.
There's 3 reasons why a person is incarcerated: to rehabilitate himself, and I have no doubt that you have rehabilitated yourself. You've performed very well during your incarceration. The second reason is isolation. We want to isolate the bad guy from the community at large. And retribution, punishment for the crime that he committed. And there is no reason, rhyme, or I can't even think of an idea why you committed this senseless crime. You couldn't articulate to us this morning the reason why. And everybody that spoke today wanted to know why. Mr. Derricks, I think you don't know the reason why. or the crime was so egregious that your inner being won't allow you to articulate the reason why. But that doesn't matter because crime was so violent, the crime was so egregious, you were aware that the victim was still living. You could have made a turn the opposite way and dropped off at a hospital, and you didn't. Based upon the violent, egregious nature of the crime, overwhelming express opposition from the whole legal community, the judge, the DA's office, law enforcement, the adamant opposition of the victim's family. My vote is to deny your request.
Thank you, Mr. O'Shea. All right, Mr. Derricks, you've got a split vote, 2 to grant, 2 to deny. So you know the outcome of today's proceeding is your application for clemency has been denied. Good luck to you.
There you have it. There you have it. My settings are, let's see if I can plug this in, if this will help. Okay, I think this can. So, how do we unpack this? You know, the first thing that was interesting to me, I wanted to get an understanding of PCP. So I did a little bit of talk to Frank, and one thing that was interesting that's cleared up is that it's not an embalming fluid, which it was referred to, I think, multiple times in this hearing. It's simply that what it is it's an anesthetic that can be used to stop pain, but it can also cause hallucination. And I think we've heard oftentimes people take PCP and they go absolutely nuts. Like we hear about those stories. So it is one of those things you don't want to mess with. But the reason one is referenced to as embalming fluid right here is that if it's sprayed onto or dipped into a cigarette, then this method is referred to as embalming fluid. So I think there are some people in the hearing that were confused thinking it actually wasn't embalming fluid. It's not. And it just seems like in some people they become aggressive and violent. I guess it depends on a lot of different things. It was interesting. First, Mr. Mirabella goes and he grants him, and I'm thinking Mr. Freeman might grant, but he doesn't. He just says he just doesn't feel good about it, and he couldn't do it. Then you have Miss Jackson, who gives her reference and experience of being a judge. The last case that she took, where a father had what his father had done to his own little baby, which is just horrific. And she grants. And then you have Mr. O'Shea who comes in with the hammer, with the anvil, and says, "No way." You know, to think about the situation, there's not a lot of information on this case because and so there's no appeal. There's no there's just not much. And what we have really is this man who, like they said, had nothing on his record, completed high school, was playing sports. Although it wasn't just marijuana he was smoking, he's talking about doing two different type of hard stuff while playing sports. He was doing, was it the Molly and something else to help him. So he was doing the uppers to help him run faster, and then the downers to help him calm down from it. So I don't know if we're getting the full picture, but to then move to PCP, but the whole story really, it didn't feel like he was taking any accountability. You have the victims kind of get up and say that at the beginning. He just like brushes it off. He just like talks through it like nothing happened. And I just, for me, there's something that's just being missed there. Like, wouldn't you just be like, how does someone randomly have that much rage, that much hate, that much where, she was working, I think it was as a waitress at Denny's. She left her shift. She has her car there, and her car doesn't get started from a battery, which is just so sad. It's like, these little things, what if, all these what ifs, right? She asks him for help. He gets up with a tire iron. So he decides to grab a tire iron, and then he beats her so violently. Here, we could go share this. I mean, let's see what we can. He's charged with first degree. He might get the death penalty. So they just say, you know what? We'll do a second degree, no court trial. And he's supposed to be locked up for life. But then they changed the laws. And now every 5 years, and 5 years from now, the family's going to have to get up and do this all over again. They're going to have to go through this. And like it's not just every 5 years, but it's probably the year leading up to the fifth year. All the stress and all the anxiety and all of the not knowing, is this going to be the year, and the memories it brings up and the trauma. While canvassing the area, the detectives searched a nearby Waffle House about a quarter-mile from where the vehicle was located. While the parking lot detectives located what appeared to be the original crime scene after finding large amounts of blood on the concrete. Detectives then contacted the family, who had not seen the car earlier, since earlier in the night before, and to think this whole time she might be alive, grasping on, as they said, to the grass and the trees, and her sticks in her hands, but fighting for life. After several interviews, they identified Derricks. During an interview with Derricks, he told detectives he was sitting in his car at the Waffle House parking lot when a young lady who was having car trouble approached him and asked for help. He told detectives that he got out of his car, assisted the lady, later identified, and then he began beating her with a tire tool, because why not? He told police he then placed her body in the vehicle and drove her to an area where he dumped her body. I mean, why even do that? Why not just leave? Like, none of it makes sense. And that's the whole thing about this. None of this makes sense. Sorry about the Paw Patrol stuff in the background. If this picks it up too much, they'll just copyright strike this whole thing. I'll get a major strike on my account. I don't know. I hope you don't hear it so loudly as I do. It's summer. Kids are home. It's going to be like a little tough. So I just don't, that's the thing about this case. We just don't understand it. None of us can wrap our minds around how do you do this to another human being? How do you do this to another human being? And the only thing that I might argue is that it's not just about punishment, but it is about protecting the public because you don't know what he's capable of. Here was a man that did have a perfect record. And yeah, he was on PCP, but he still went and randomly did this to a woman, and he has no insight as to why. And to just say that, well, he was tripping, and okay, but don't you think there has to be some type of deep rooted anger that maybe can get unleashed some other way in the future? Through some other method. It seems dangerous. It's these random acts of violence. You hear judges talk about different cases. There can be reasons. There's greed. There's jealousy. There's different motivations. But here there is none, and he can't even talk about it. He just says, "I don't know. I was tripping. I was tripping." Let me see if I can make it a little more. I should have probably asked them to lower the volume before I started this. Man, it's like the sounds of that Paw Patrol stuff drives me nuts. But again, at the same time, I don't hear it anymore. Recently got my son a fish tank. So we got him, he really wanted a fish. He went to a friend's house and really little guppies they had. So he wanted one. So we got it. They died the first day. So we got more. They died the second day. And I said, you know what? Let's not give up. Let's go and understand. So went on Amazon, got like 4 books. One of them was perfect. A lot of pictures, like over 500 different fish. And he really made me so proud. He became obsessed with this little book. Bookmarked it, did the research. We go to the store. We met with this woman, Mary, who's very passionate about fish. And none of the fish in the book that he wanted ended up being a good fit. But we did get a few cute other fish that were similar. And then we learned the things that we were doing wrong about the treating the water and this and that. And we're going on now 8 days of the fish being alive and happy. So, and he's feeding them, and I feel so good about it. It's like a good learning experience for him. And I haven't had to feed the fish once, which is also pretty cool. Historically, every animal we get, I end up becoming the pet mom, the pet dad. I was gonna say pet mom, but that's pet dad. Um, you know, the interview also, like Mr. Mirabella, I like his interview style, but I felt like he glossed over it. He went straight to the drugs, wanted to know about the drugs, which is him. That's his style, right? But then you really didn't get much else out of it. And I would have preferred to have driven in a little bit harder and been like, why do you think you've had all these years? You've had 38 years sitting in a cell to think about why you did it. What do you think? And is he just going to say, I don't know. I was on PCP. Well, a lot of people take PCP and don't just take a tire iron out and do that. I don't know. I mean, like, I just to drill down it, it's only like you would think that there would be some type of insight. Is it possible for someone to do something like that without having any insight? You would think there has to be some type of rage. There has to be some type of anger that would cause someone to do that. And then again, they show the presence of mind that he went to hide his crime. Immediately after, he drove her and dumped her. This wasn't even like a total crazy hallucination where he thought that she was an attack robot out to get him, did it, and then left. He took her car, not his, dumped her body to hide the evidence in her car. And maybe he could have gotten away with it. So I just don't buy any of it. And the idea that he doesn't seem to just to have any it doesn't feel like real remorse. I don't know what I'm looking for. I want to hear tears. I want to see a tissue being used. I want to hear him just break down. It would be such a imagine if you woke up one day and you're like, oh my God, I did, what did I do? I did this. If that's how he's kind of explaining it, right? Like it just happened, but you would be freaking out. Even 38 years later, when it's time to talk about it. I don't know. I agree. He shouldn't get out. This type of senseless crimes, and the person can't even explain why. Who's to say that something else won't trigger him in the next 20, 30 years of his life? But he will get another chance in 5 years, and he'll continue to get chances. And his family's going to have to go through this. I don't know what's going to change for him. Maybe he's going to have to try to come up with some reason to figure out some type of, but I don't know. That's just me. Love to hear your thoughts on this. And with that, I'll let you go.